Jess from Knits Please, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to knit a scarf. Now I think this project is absolutely perfect for beginners. It's simple, it teaches you the basics, and we knit it in chunky yarn so it works up really quickly, and there's nothing more satisfying than a quick knit. So first let me talk you through all of the materials that you'll need to knit your scarf. The first thing you'll need is some wool. I am using super chunky wool. This one is Hometown by Lion brand. You can see it's really thick and chunky and squidgy, and that's what's going to make it knit up quickly. So I've got 4 balls of that. You also need some knitting needles. So I've got a pair of straight bamboo knitting needles, and the size of those is 10 millimeters. You'll need some scissors for cutting your yarn, and a tapestry needle for weaving in the ends when it's finished, so that it's all nice and tidy. The first step of knitting our scarf is to create a slip knot, and then we'll cast on the stitches that we need for the scarf. The number of stitches we cast on will dictate how wide the scarf is, so I'm going to cast on 24 stitches on this scarf because that's about the width that I want it to be. So in order to create your slip knot, you're going to take the tail end of the yarn, which is here. This we call the working yarn because that's attached to the ball. So you're going to hold the tail yarn in front of the working yarn, create yourself a bit of a loop here. Then take that tail and push it through the loop from the back to the front. Hold that tight and then pull like this. And that's created our slip knot, which you will find can kind of move around a little bit and get tighter and looser. So you want to pop that slip knot on one of your needles, pull it tighter but not too tight. You still need to be able to get your other needle in there to be able to cast on the rest of your stitches. So taking your second needle, you want to come to the left hand side, and you're going through the loop from the front to the back from the left hand side. So pop in through that loop, so you're now behind the left needle with the right needle. Then you need to take your working yarn, wrap it around, hold that tight here, and you're pulling the needle back through, but you're catching hold of that working yarn. Loosen it up a bit and pop that over onto your next needle, onto your left hand needle. And you're going to repeat that process until we've got 24 stitches. Excellent. So we should now have 24 stitches on your left hand needle. Perfect. 24 stitches, always best to double count. And so what we're going to do now is start knitting. So the process of knitting every row is super simple. You're working the same movement over and over again. So once you get the hang of it, it will be really quick to pick it up. And you're using pretty much the same technique as you used when you were doing the cast on. It's the same sort of movement. So hopefully it will be quite easy to pick up if you've got this far. So again, we take the needle from the left hand side through that loop front to back, wrap the yarn around, bring it back through to the front, and this time we just take the stitch off the left needle and move it onto the right hand needle. So left to right, front to back, wrap the working yarn around, back through to the front, off the needle. Left to right, front to back, wrap it around, back to the front, off the left needle, and continue working in exactly that movement until you've taken all of the stitches off the left needle and onto the right one. There we go. So now we've taken all of the stitches off the left needle onto the right one, and in doing that we've knit our first row. So as I say, it's the same process over and over again. In order to do the next row, all you need to do is turn your needle around, so your right hand needle then becomes your left hand needle, swap over the other one and continue exactly that same movement. So you start again, left to right, front to back, wrap it around, off the needle. Now you continue working this pattern, so knit to the end of the row, swap your needles around, knit to the end of the row, swap your needles around until the scarf measures as long as you want it to measure. It's as simple as that. So I've now knit up all of the first ball of yarn. So we can see here's the end of the ball. It's all been knit up into this lovely squidgy chunky beginning of a scarf. So now I'm going to show you how to add the second ball of yarn. Now once you've got to the end of your first ball of wool, you're going to want to attach the second one. So I always like to knit to the end of the row. I just prefer to have my ends joined at the edge of the work. So to make sure that you've always got enough wool, the measurement is to have your yarn tail approximately 3 times the length of your knitting. So if you've got 3 times the length of your knitting and a bit more, you can work another row, but if you've got anything less than that, then it's time to attach your next ball. So this is just my preferred way of doing it. I'm sure plenty of other people will tell you different ways, but this is just what I find super easy. So you need your next ball of wool, and to find the end of it, so just unravel a little bit there, and so I'm just basically going to go ahead and start knitting just as I have been all along, but I'm just going to now use the working end of the new ball of wool. So literally just going to hold the tail end with my other fingers and take the working end, wrap it around, and I'm just going to knit a few stitches. So you'll see the first one is quite loose at the moment because that ball of the sort of tail of the yarn is not joined onto anything. So once I've knit a few stitches, I'm going to pop this down and then go back to the beginning. So what I have is the tail of yarn from the new ball and from the old ball. I'm just going to pull those a little bit tighter and literally just tie them in a knot. Double knot like that, so it's nice and tight and it's not going to come undone. And then I'm just going to leave it like that, carry on with my knitting, and I'll weave those in at the very end. Once you have knit to the end of your yarn, or that you've knit until the scarf is as long as you want your scarf to be, it's time to cast off. If, like me, you've knit all of your wool up, you need to just make sure, like we said before, that you've got enough left to get through the cast off. So again, I just checked, made sure I could measure at least 3 lengths of my knitting. I've got a little bit left over, couldn't have got another row in, so I've stopped here and I'm ready to cast off. Like before, it's the same sort of motion as it is when you're just doing your knitting, so it's fairly simple. So the first thing you want to do is knit your first 2 stitches. So just exactly the same as standard knitting. Now when you've done your first 2 stitches, you're going to take the first stitch over the second and off the needle. So take your left hand needle into the first stitch and literally pull it over the top of your second stitch and off your needle. Then you knit 1 more stitch and repeat that same motion. So hold on to your right stitch, over the left stitch and off the needle. And you keep working in this way all the way until the end. So now I have cast off all of the stitches from my left needle, and I'm left with this one stitch here on the right hand needle. So I'm just going to hold on to that stitch, take the needle out and pop that to the side, and then to make sure that it all doesn't start to unravel, take the tail of the yarn, pull it through the stitch, so you see that's gone all the way through the stitch, and pull it tight, so you've now got a nice little knot. That make sure that doesn't unravel and you'll be ready to go. So now that we've finished knitting up our lovely chunky cozy scarf, the very last thing we need to do is to weave in all of the ends. So I've got this one here, and there's a few along where I've added additional balls of yarn along the way. So for that you're going to need your tapestry needle and some scissors, and we're just going to do it really simply. Because this is quite long, I'm just going to cut it down so it's a bit shorter, easier to weave in. So you just need to thread the yarn through your tapestry needle. So I tend to just fold that over so it's a little bit easier to do so. So that's threaded through the tapestry needle, and then just go down the edge, going through those stitches on the edge. You don't need to go too far. Then we pull that through, loosen it up a little bit. Then if you want, you can go back the other way. I'm not bothering with that today. So then trim it off, and there you go, that's all tucked in. So I'm going to continue doing that on all of the tail ends of yarn that I've got throughout the work. When you've got two together, I tend to do one each way. So that one went to the left, this one I'm going to have go along the right, just so it's not too chunky. And there you have it, a gorgeous chunky scarf that is ready to wear. So there you have it. I really hope you've enjoyed knitting along with this video and have made your very first scarf. If you have, please let me know, drop me a comment, find me on Instagram, tag me in your pictures. I'd really love to see how you get on, and if there are any more tutorials that you'd like me to do a video for, please let me know. Yeah, I'm hoping to do a few more YouTube videos, so please do subscribe to my channel if you've enjoyed this video. Click a thumbs up button and ring the bell if you want to have notifications on when I next post. Thank you, bye!